I'm going to show you how to read your Iggy book because I totally get it. It is a very heavy material to try to consume. And we all know that you need to stay motivated to be able to read it and get what you need to be a good nurse. So how am I supposed to read this book that's so heavy that I get blurry-eyed just thinking about it? Great question. What you're going to need are a bunch of highlighters. Whoa, Miss Tonis, I don't like highlighters. Or, oh, Miss Tonis, I already highlight the book. Check. No, actually, you probably do it wrong. Right, you probably do it wrong. What you're going to do is you're going to designate certain parts of the reading to have certain colors. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, pick a color that represents early to you. And every time you see the book reference initial, early, or first thing, you're going to take that color highlighter that you decided was going to be early, representing early, and you're going to highlight only 3, no more than 8 words in that entire idea. But here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to look at your book, and if it is talking about an early signs and symptoms of COPD as a cough, I just want you to highlight not even the word early because your color is representing early, but COPD, cough. And by you designating it as a green, it is automatically going to be programmed in your brain as early signs and symptoms of COPD are going to be cough. What are our other categories that you need to designate to be able to highlight with intention? I want you to designate early as a color, late as a color. As an example, COPD, and you need to do pursed lip breathing for advanced COPD patients. The next color I want you to designate is common. And whenever you see that the book mentions that something is common finding, and just highlight that one word. All right, another color I want you to pick and designate are what we call oh shoot findings. Right. So if the Iggy book were to mention something that's like a red alert or emergency, or a nurse must prioritize that or act immediately, I want you to pick a color and make sure that piece of information gets that color. Next thing I want you to highlight as a color is anything that involves teaching. I know in the COPD section that it has a lot of teaching about positioning, exercise therapy. We do not need to highlight the whole thing. Just be very intentional and specific about things that you may not be able to naturally think of, and go ahead and just highlight, once again, 3, maximum 8 words in an entire paragraph. The next thing I want you to do is anywhere that the book mentions where you need to monitor, assess, or observe, that should get its own color. So if the book mentions you should monitor for a temperature rise for somebody who has hyperthyroidism as it indicates a thyroid crisis, you're going to highlight with that color that you designate as monitor, where it says, don't highlight the word monitor, but just do temperature, thyroid, crisis. Okay, and then of course, as you're soon going to find out, it's going to say to immediately notify the doctor. So then you can take your other color, which is your oh shoot finding, and somehow highlight the temperature and then notify the doctor. The other color designation I want you to use is anything that talks about medication and some action that you need to do, that you're responsible for that medication. All right, so that's my one study hack, is that you are going to highlight with intention. Another study hack I have for students is to think in frameworks and read in frameworks. Information is not just this black and white type of situation. Everything is on a continuum. There is like a degree of either advanced or early or severe or mild, and everything a nurse does is plotted along this continuum. So what you need to do to be able to capture this when you're reading is, so when you can, take a piece of paper, draw a line across, maybe it could be asthma, and if the book while you're reading mentions something that's more of a severe finding, put it on the severe end. And then if it mentions an intervention, stick it somewhere toward the severe end. Everything should be thought of as either stable or unstable with any disease that you read about. Make sure to try to classify any of the data coming in that we should assess and prioritize and do, and all of our actions should go under stable or an unstable patient. Okay, another way I need you to think and approach information and categorize it as is the patient acute or chronic? I am going to treat somebody who is having a exacerbation of COPD different than somebody who is at home and just having, you know, to live with COPD on a day-to-day basis. So try to see if when you can start reading, if you can classify things as like acute or chronic. COPD can kind of be both. All right, big warning here. If you feel that you lose a lot of steam and motivation when you're reading, when you first sit down, and then 10 minutes, 30 minutes later, you're just like kind of glazed over, I want you to actually start reading in the signs and symptoms section. Like completely go ahead and skip the patho piece. What? Skip a section? You're going to go back to it, but go ahead and pick up the hands-on piece first. Then you'll be motivated enough to tackle the patho. The last and final trick of the day, labs. We are going to be reviewing a lot of labs, and I find that students have a really hard time remembering the values, and in each condition and with each medication and all of these different situations where labs are going to be high in situations and then low in others, how to keep that straight. I got you covered. What we're going to do is have you get either a blank sheet of paper or a 3x5 card, and on the front of the card you're going to put potassium, and then you're going to label the normals of potassium, which are like 3.5 to 5. So you're going to put the normals on the front as well as say the electrolyte or whatever is being measured. And then on the back side, you are going to put increased in and decreased in. And I just jotted this down from my head, but every single time we are learning a condition, we're learning about a medication, and if I mention that it has, you know, this relationship with a certain lab level, lock it down. Let me give you a quick example. COPD and your hemoglobin and hematocrit. You may not be able to answer right now. Is my hematocrit going to be elevated? Or am I going to show anemia? It's going to be down? It would be important to know for the possible test coming up. So, answer is it's going to be high. But anyway, I would love for you to learn your labs and your associated diseases and conditions and drug classes in this manner. I hope these tips have been helpful to you. If you have any questions, you know I'm just a click away.